Is there really such a thing as enlightenment? How was this idea created? Why have people across different ages and generations searched for it? And why does enlightenment still have such a huge market, even in this 21st century? I started my own search a couple of years ago when I developed this deep yearning for this beautifully quoted word, enlightenment. I read many books, not just once, but twice, three times, sometimes even more, until they slowly started to make sense. I did the same with countless videos on YouTube. Later, from different sources, I verified for myself that what I was actually going through was existential frustration. Simply put, I had lost track of life. I didn't know what to do next or where I was going. And that brings us to today's topic, enlightenment. During my search, I found that different religions use different terms for what appears to point toward the same thing: salvation in Christianity, nirvana or satori in Buddhism, and moksha in Hinduism. Different words, different traditions, but all these fancy terms seem to point towards something very simple: rise above your thoughts and observe the consciousness that is in you. Or put it more precisely, be the consciousness that you are. At first, this is definitely difficult to grasp. So before going any further, we need to look at three things: thought, consciousness, and this strange entity we call you or I. First, what is thought, and how does thought arise? From childhood, we have been told that there is something called the mind, and that thought originates there. And most of us believe this without questioning it. Our families shape our thoughts, our cultures shape our thoughts, and nowadays social media and online platforms shape our thoughts. The thoughts that we carry have been handed down from generation to generation. They are an accumulation of different minds that have lived on this earth throughout human history. At some point, an idea may have originated in some individual's so-called mind. That person shared it with someone else through speech, signs, or eventually through writings. If others agreed on the idea, it remained. It was shared, it continued. If they rejected it, perhaps it disappeared. The thoughts that survived were passed on, modified, renamed, interpreted, and shaped differently depending on culture, geography, and time. So, many of the thoughts we have today may have already appeared in another human mind long before we were born. Then, somewhere along the journey of the human race, perhaps some individual became conscious of his or her own thought. And that is where another strange journey began, the battle between thoughts. Questions appeared, answers appeared, all within the same mind. Imagine how strange this must have been. A human being could ask himself a question and then answer himself. And just like thought itself, this awareness was shared with other human beings, and the journey of becoming conscious of thought continued. Human beings were no longer simply surviving and procreating. They began questioning, they began searching, they began trying to understand. Who is the individual having these thoughts? Who is the one observing them? Who or what is this entity called I or you? And please don't get me wrong, all of these tools have served humanity incredibly well. Through them, human beings have come a very long way. But the people who first began asking these questions disappeared generations ago. And then another person appeared, and another, each one becoming trapped in the same questions. What is thought? What is consciousness? And who am I? And while searching for answers, perhaps that person eventually realized that mind could not answer every question that the mind itself created. And that realization brought impatience, frustration, confusion, despair, until finally there were no more answers. Only helplessness, only not knowing. Interestingly enough, perhaps that state of not knowing brings a person back to something very ancient, almost as if returning to the beginning of time, when nobody knew anything, And when this suddenly becomes clear, the person becomes still, awake. There is a simple maxim that describes this beautifully. Muddy water, when left still without stirring, becomes clear. One of the most well-known individuals associated with this kind of awakening is the Buddha, according to the scriptures. But honestly, I don't know whether the stories are literally true. Maybe he himself didn't even know that something called enlightenment had happened. Perhaps the people around him simply noticed something different, a strange stillness, a different way of being, and maybe they gave that state a name, enlightenment. From there, the journey of enlightenment began. Today, this is the knowledge that many gurus in the marketplace are selling. But there is nothing to gain from it. No technique can guarantee that you will find it. I know this because I've tried many of them over the years. Perhaps all that is necessary is honesty, to stop forcing, to allow the life that is already inside you to find its own rhythm. And when that happens, perhaps no outside help is needed for the attainment of this so-called enlightenment.